Hello, everyone. So yesterday or the day before, we took our notes and we started talking about spreadsheets. This is what a spreadsheet will look like as soon as it will load here in a moment. This is what a spreadsheet will look like. This is the standard spreadsheet that everyone has in front of them. Now, um, I'm going to go over some of the things that we talked about the other day in your notes to get you started so that you are able to play Battleship with the student that's sitting across from you at your particular table. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Battleship, it is an old school game that came out when I was a kid that is still awesome, and it is set up much like your laptops, your Chromebooks are set up right in front of you, where the screen would be where your opponent's ships, where your ships would be stationed on a grid, and the keyboard of your Chromebooks or laptops would be where your opponent's ships would be placed. So we are going to, in spreadsheet for your first spreadsheet assignment, we're going to build two spreadsheets that represent your opponents and your ships on the battleship board, and then you're going to have the opportunity to play the student that's sitting across from you at your table, or one of the students that's sitting right around you. Important that you cannot move. Unfortunately, you have to play someone that's right around you. So let's go over some of the basics in actual spreadsheet that we've talked about before, but now you have an opportunity to see in person. So this is what a spreadsheet looks like in person. So it is your grid. You have your columns represented by your letters A, B, C, D, E, and F, and the standard spreadsheet goes all the way out to, technically it usually goes out to Z. I actually deleted one of the columns a little bit earlier. And it also goes all the way down to 1,000 is the standard spreadsheet count. I actually, again, deleted a couple things a little bit earlier. But that is your standard spreadsheet. You can add as many columns as you need, as many rows as you need. Now, your columns, as we just mentioned, are represented by the letters A, B, C, and all the way up to Z and AZ, and it goes on. And your rows, Mr. Rows, are all represented by the letters. All right. Now, again, the wonderful thing about Google is the menu bar, which is the words, and the toolbar, which are the buttons, are represented right there. And a lot of them are very similar to what you're used to in your Google Docs and your Google Slides. All right. The font changing items are all the same. A lot of the alignment section is the same. They're all the same buttons. But the beauty thing is, if you ever forget what any of these buttons do, put your cursor over top of them. Wait a second or two, and it will tell you what it does. Bold. You know what bold does, and over top of the B. If I go over a little bit, italics and so on and so forth. It tells you what it does. So you don't need to memorize what every single button is or even where it is on the toolbar. Just put your cursor over top until you get to what you're actually trying to find. All right, so let's kind of go over a few things that we need to see for the first time. So I'm going to go over here to cell B4. All right, so that's my active cell. It's the blue cell, that's blue lining that's going all the way around cell B4. And I'm going to put in what I had for dinner tonight. I'm just going to type it on in there. All right, so I had Marco's Pizza tonight with pepperoni and sausage. Now, as you notice, my active cell, the words are going beyond, all right, the actual cell. That's not a problem whatsoever. All right, now I'm going to come up here to my buttons, and for you it might be a little different. I'm going to click on the more so you can see all these other particular buttons, but we're going to go over some of these buttons so you can see what they do. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in text wrapping. Now, we mentioned text wrapping in our notes. Text wrapping is when you make the decision to put in a line inside the same cell. Now, that particular text wrapping works just like it would if it was a text box in a a Google slide or in a Google Doc, except in those particular text boxes, the lines automatically go to the next row. Here in Spreadsheet, you have to tell the spreadsheet what you want it to do. All right, so I'm going to click on text wrapping, and I have a couple of different options right here. Again, put your cursor over top, look at the pictures. I'm going to click on wrap with the curved arrow, and it automatically drops all that text inside to the next row. Excuse me, inside that particular cell to the next line, pardon me, to the next line. Now, I can also merge particular cells together. Now, how I merge them together is obviously I bring them together, I combine. So I'm going to highlight a couple particular cells together. I'm going to highlight a range of cells. My current cell is still B4. I'm going to highlight from B4 all the way to E4. Now, extremely important thing to point out is one of the big things that everybody seems to have trouble with when they first start using spreadsheets. Is spreadsheet has several different cursors. Your cursor right now, for me, is the arrowhead. That is the only one that I want you to use until we start talking about the other particular ones, because it will lead to confusion down the line. Make sure you are using the arrowhead only for the entire Battleship setup. Got to use the arrowhead. It will make things so much easier and you won't have any confusion. So I'm going to left click and hold down, and I'm going to drag over to cell E4. I'm going to let go, and now you can see my active cells are B4 to E4. Just like I'm reading a book, I go from top to bottom, left to right, B4 to E4. Now I can merge those cells together. All right, again, put your cursor over top of the button until you find one that you actually want and you're actually needing to do, and that's merge. I'm going to click on merge, and look what it did. It made my active cell one giant cell, one mega cell. So that is how I merge particular cells together. If I want to unmerge them, just click on the same button and it goes back to the way it was. All right, same function goes through your particular cells. You notice that there are gray lines on your particular cells right now. Those are your borders. However, if I were to ever print this particular spreadsheet off, those borders would not appear. So if I wanted them to be more pronounced, or I wanted to print them off and keep them, I need to put in borders. All right, it looks like the little box right there. Click on borders and you have all those particular options, and you would just pick on the particular option that you want. For this one, I'm going to pick on borders on the outside, and I'm going to change the color to blue. All right, and I'm going to actually make a little bit thicker so you can see it. And I'm going to click off of it, and now I've just made my borders there in blue. Okay, very simplistic, very easy to do. All right, now one of the things that we mentioned in our notes was that right-clicking on options and items was a huge help to you. It would give you 90% of the options and functions, 90% of the things that you needed to do would be through right-clicking on various places on the spreadsheet. If you right-click on your particular cells, you know what a lot of this stuff is. You just have to read it and, oh, okay, that's what it is. That's where it does. Copy, paste, cut, you know what all that stuff is. Insert. What does the word insert means? To add, to put in. Insert a row, insert a column, insert a cell. All right, you know what those words mean. It does exactly what you think it does. Same thing with delete row, delete column, and delete cells. You know what those things mean. That's where it's located at. Okay, so if you click on delete row, the row goes away. Now you notice, actually, row 4 is still there. I was working in row 4. There's just nothing there. What it's doing is it's not really deleting that particular row. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. You notice that from the bottom, I'm missing a particular row. So it's deleting one and moving the other ones up. That's how we're kind of shrinking the size of our particular spreadsheet itself. Now, if I right-click inside a particular cells or cell range, I get those particular options. But the options change if I right-click on the column. So I get the copy, paste, cut, copy, paste, cut options right there. I also get the insert left, insert right, all right, delete column, all those particular options, hide, disappear, and also resize column. I can resize that particular column, all right, to a particular size. If I want to make it 250, make it 250 and look how big it gets. I can go the opposite direction. If I want to make it 50, it goes the opposite direction. Now I'm going to right click on the letter, go back here, fit to data. All right, it's pretty self-explanatory to my eyes, but fit to data means that if whatever information you have in that cell or column, it will adjust the size of it to either make it larger or smaller so that the data, the numbers or the letters that are put in those particular cells, columns, and rows are displayed so that everyone can see them. I'm going to set this back to the standard, which is 100. Now, what do you think would happen? I've right-clicked on column C. I got those particular options. What do you think would happen if I right-clicked on one of the row letters, the row numbers? The exact same thing is going to happen, except the word is not going to be column. It's going to be row. Delete row, clear row, hide row, resize row. Okay? So I could change it to 50, actually, 50. And there you go. It makes it larger or smaller to whatever I would like. Okay, so there's my rows, my columns, they're holding things up, and my rows, vertical and horizontal, okay? And at the intersection are your individual cells with your cell address. Remember, letter comes first, then the number, just like you're playing bingo. Okay, now, one other thing that I want to make sure that I point out to you is over at the bottom left-hand corner of your particular screen. As we mentioned, this is one spreadsheet. We talked about, all right, your Google Chrome, all right, is one software, and many of you have several tabs open at the same time. Spreadsheet is one software. You have several tabs at the same time. We talked about cake, delicious wedding cake. It could be several different layers, but it's still one cake. All right, spreadsheet is one cake. The sheets are your individual layers. Now, if you right-click on the word sheet down here, okay, you can obviously delete it. We can't delete it because there's only one right now. Duplicate. What's the word duplicate mean? All right, it means to make another one. All right, to make a copy of what is there. Okay, don't confuse that with copy to. The word to means something different here. I'm not copying, I am sending it to. I'm copying it to somewhere else. So don't get those two confused. All right, so if you want to make a copy, a duplicate, replicate a spreadsheet, excuse me, a sheet that you have there, you want to duplicate it. You don't want to copy it. Copy to is sending it somewhere. All right, and then obviously rename and color. We won't get into protect sheet too much, but rename and color, all right, are the options there for you. All right, and if you need to add a blank spreadsheet, bottom left-hand corner, put your button or your cursor over top of that particular button, and you get add sheet, and you can add an additional sheet to this particular spreadsheet. So then you can add more layers to your cake, more tabs to your Google Chrome. All right, so that is kind of the basic generic starting points for just for spreadsheet. In my personal opinion, the best thing to do is to get you guys started right away and play around with it, because once you get your feet wet, once you get kind of using it, understanding it, the basics for you will come very easy. You guys are capable and able to do this. So what you're going to do is also in Google Classroom. Here are the directions for Battleship. I've spelled out to the T what you need to do to create your Battleship boards. You are going to create 2 sheets inside your spreadsheet. All right, one sheet will be your ships, and the other sheet will be your enemy ships. Okay, so I've spelled out the directions for you. All right, one thing that is on here that we have done before in other softwares is I've asked you to put in a word art, all right, with the text Battleship, all right, right there. Okay, I've asked you to put in the text Battleship. Read what is underneath of it. If you forget, I tell you where to go. So go to the menu, go to Insert, Drawing, then put in Word Art, and you will be able to put in your word art of Battleship underneath of things. Follow the directions, all right, and you will be able to create, all right, here's an example of your spreadsheet board. All right, that is what one of them are going to look like. Okay, and if you follow the directions, you will see here I've spelled out what ships you need to put into your particular board before you can play your opponents. There's a total of 8 ships that you will have on your spreadsheet to play the game. All right, and then I've given you direction on how to play the particular game against your opponent. All right, do the best you can, work with each other to help set up the board, and then play your opponent as best you can. And if you don't get done today, that is okay. It's not homework. When I get back on Tuesday with you guys, we will finish your board if need be, and we'll have an opportunity to play the game. So enjoy, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.